long range. And while that's definitely a massive plus in his favor, let's not forget that Deadpool's a gadget-happy superhero too. He knows how to use a massive variety of different weapons, and his unpredictable nature would keep the super calculated Tony guessing during their skirmish. One of Deadpool's weaknesses is his mental state, and if he decides he doesn't care so much about innocent bystanders, this would give him an even bigger advantage. Trying to save people slowed down Tony in his fight versus the Hulk, and I could definitely see Deadpool being clever enough to take advantage of his enemy's compassion. Number 2. Wolverine. Speaking of superheroes who are crazy difficult to destroy, let's see how Iron Man stacks up against Wolverine. Like Deadpool, Wolverine has an amazing ability to heal himself when he's injured in a fight. Plus, you know, the whole adamantium skeleton thing? Yeah. I'm not gonna argue about which is stronger, adamantium or vibranium. Frankly, I'd love to, but this is only a 10-minute video and I've got a lot of X-Men to talk about. But if you're an MCU fan, then just keep in mind that adamantium is comparable to vibranium in terms of its indestructible nature. Meaning that all Wolverine has to do is get close enough to Iron Man and slice him open like a tin can. Yes, in the comics, Tony has all kinds of super strong super suits, but few things can stand up to the might of Wolverine's claws. You might think Iron Man's projectiles would give him an edge, but let's not forget that Wolverine is an experienced fighter with amazing moves. Plus, we've seen what happens when Tony gets too close to his enemies, and they're able to engage in some good old-fashioned fisticuffs. Schnink! Number 3. Psylocke. Psylocke is an Omega-level mutant, meaning the odds of anyone besting her in a fight are pretty darn low. She has incredible telekinetic powers and can use them to manifest a wide variety of weapons, force fields, and give her the power of flight. Basically all the things that at least match, if not beat, most of Iron Man's suit-based tricks. Then there's the fact that Psylocke has telepathy and can use her psionic knife to cleave through her enemy's brain neurons, and that's not something a super suit can protect against. Now there could be a way for Tony to work around this using a technique we saw in the crossover event Avengers vs. X-Men. Iron Man developed telepathic lasers to neutralize such attacks, and managed to use them effectively on Emma Frost. But in the MCU, we've seen that he's susceptible to people using their powers to mess with his mind, so there's no guarantee that he'd have access to this technology in battle. Even if you give Tony the benefit of the doubt and say he could ensure that she can't mess directly with his mind, she's still a master martial artist who can send out her own psionic blasts and choose from a number of powerful weapons. Even if she can't literally get inside his head, she could still slice him apart with her psionic blade. Number 4. Bishop. Despite his emotionally distant father, there's no denying that Tony Stark lived a privileged life. Unlike the mutant Bishop, who grew up in an alternate timeline patrolled by mutant-destroying sentinels. This isn't a match to see who had the saddest childhood or anything. I'm just saying that Bishop had a much greater incentive to get tougher sooner, and would be more than a match for Iron Man. Mostly I believe this because Bishop's main benefit in battle takes advantage of Tony's greatest strength on the battlefield. See, Bishop can absorb energy from his attackers. Not only does it not hurt him, but he can release it back at his attacker with an even greater force than he received it. Yeah, mutants aren't bound by the laws of physics, so that's how that works in this case. Iron Man's armor is sturdy but can only withstand so much damage. Tony's not known for being tentative in a fight. He goes all out. And I'd imagine he'd start blasting Bishop relentlessly, especially when he thinks Bishop is shrugging off his attacks. Then all Bishop would have to do to return the favor tenfold and blast Iron Man right out of the sky. Pew pew pew! Tony can be overconfident, and that could be a serious weakness in his fight against Bishop. Number 5. Kitty Pryde. Many fictional characters tend to underestimate Kitty Pryde, but that's a serious mistake, and not the kind that everyone survives. There are lots of different factors that go into a superhero matchup. I know I make judging comic book battles look easy, but trust me, it's hard work. But Kitty has a simple trick to take out Iron Man's greatest weapon. Local Avengers hate her. Let's see how one local woman disrupted the multi-billion-dollar Stark Industries. We know Kitty's able to pass through solid matter by rearranging her atoms, but she doesn't always leave the thing she passes through in one piece. She can phase through Tony's Iron Man suits, causing them to short-circuit, and completely eliminate them as a threat in no time at all. Even Tony admitted that her power is basically his kryptonite, and he wants to stay as far away from her as possible. If anyone's gonna destroy Tony's suits, it's gonna be him. Even though he can rebuild them in no time at all, Kitty destroying his suit would pretty much end their fight before it really began. She's a skilled fighter, and that paired with her powers would leave the mere mortal Tony Stark totally outmatched. Number 6. Cable. Everyone made a big deal about Tony Stark figuring out how to use time travel during Avengers Endgame, but how would he stack up against a time travel veteran like Cable? These two faced off against one another at Iron Man's insistence during Avengers X Sanction, and Cable was able to use Iron Man's own chest plate from the future to gain the upper hand. Getting taken out by your invention that you haven't even invented yet is definitely a unique superhero situation, even by comic book standards. Yeah, it's great that Tony can battle from within his metal exoskeleton, but Cable's cybernetic upgrades are part of his body. This means separating him from his weapons is a lot more difficult than breaking Tony out of his suit. Plus, depending on which Cable we're talking about, he might also have access to some psychic powers. And depending on which Tony we're talking about, that could be enough to end the battle right there. Number 7. Magneto. I know what you're thinking. Iron Man totally defeated Magneto when they went up against each other in Avengers vs. X-Men. But come on, we both know there were some special circumstances surrounding that fight. I mean, Iron Man is a guy in a metal suit and Magneto is the mutant master of metal. Seems kinda like a no-brainer, honestly. Yes, Iron Man did win in this particular battle, but only because he had a specially constructed suit designed with carbon nanotubes, so Magneto's powers wouldn't work on it. But since, many other things are made out of metal, Tony was still in serious trouble, even when he went all out in the offensive with his carefully prepared attacks. If the Phoenix Force hadn't interfered, Tony wouldn't have landed a lucky blow and won the fight. Basically, this really illustrates just how ridiculously good Magneto is against fighting Tony, even when the Avenger has a ton of prep time and special items prepared just for the match. If they were to have another battle without the ultra-powerful variable of the Phoenix Force coming into play, there's no way Tony would stand a chance. Number 8. Iceman. Kitty Pryde and Magneto might as well have been specifically designed to take down Tony Stark, but not all of his potential enemies are so widely overpowered. Tony's been stuck in the cold before, but he could find himself having to fight it if he ever takes on Bobby Drake, aka the Iceman. Even if you've never read any of the comics or seen any of the movies, I'm pretty sure you can guess what his power is. But just in case you've had a long day, I'll tell you that he had the ability to create ice. He can make things as cold as Howard Stark's treatment to his son, and freeze other people. Iceman's strong, but when his full potential is unlocked by someone like Emma Frost, he's even more powerful. If the Iceman managed to get Tony near a body of freezable water, he'd have a huge advantage, possibly large enough to take down Iron Man. Number 9. Archangel. Being able to fly is definitely a huge advantage when you're a superhero, but this is one edge Iron Man won't have during a battle with the mutant Archangel. In fact, as strange as it is to say, he's way better at flying than Iron Man, and this could be a massive advantage. Tony uses repulsors located on his suit's hands and feet to propel himself into the air. Archangel used to have natural wings, but now they're a techno-organic mix that are strong enough to send people flying or cause serious injuries if they get within flapping distance. Darkwing Duck may be the terror that flaps in the night, but Archangel can do some pretty heavy flapping too. While Iron Man is weighed down by his suit, Archangel has the benefit of hollow bones and a body specifically designed to fly fast and pack a powerful punch. His feathers can pierce steel, shield his body from incoming attacks, and even poison his enemies. Simply put, in an aerial battle, Iron Man would be totally outclassed by Archangel. On the ground, he's still an incredibly skilled combatant with, again, sharp toxic feathers. And as an added bonus, he has advanced healing abilities, so he can shrug off more damage than Iron Man. Number 10. Professor X. Obviously, a major player in a potential match between Iron Man and Professor X would be the Professor's psychic abilities. But as I mentioned earlier, Iron Man has shown that he can negate them during special circumstances and with enough prep time. It's debatable if this is a regular or reasonable part of his repertoire, or if it's like the Phoenix Force fluke during his battle against Magneto. But I'm in a generous mood, and I'll let Iron Man have the ability to prevent even the ultra-powerful Charles Xavier from messing with his mind, and without even having to wear a giant silly-looking helmet like Juggernaut. I know, I'm too nice to you guys. But just because Professor X couldn't use mind control on Iron Man, doesn't mean he can't use it on other people to fight in his stead. Like, say, the Incredible Hulk. Oh yeah. In moments, Professor X could tinker with Bruce Banner's brain, get the Hulk to pop out, and crush Iron Man like a soda can. Not only would he have the massive power of the Hulk, but he'd be able to utilize his incredible intellect during the battle. Tony's a smart guy, but I think Xavier is more than a match for him. From what we've seen so far, Tony has to get close enough to deploy his psychic defeating tactic. So all Professor X would have to do is stay safe distance while he lets someone else do all the fighting for him. Or he could just hook himself up to Cerebro and mess with Tony's mind from miles away. Number 11. Emma Frost. Emma Frost has the potential to defeat Iron Man in the most painful way possible by hitting him where it really hurts, his wallet. In History of the Marvel Universe number 6, Galactus talks about things that are yet to happen, including the marriage between Tony Stark and Emma Frost. So all she has to do is use her incredible powers to not sign a prenup, get a divorce, and sue him for all of his suits. Okay, maybe that's not how a battle between them would really go down. In fact, during Avengers vs. X-Men, the two former friends with benefits clashed, and Iron Man hit her with a swing of his microscopic telepathic tasers that neutralized her mind-based powers. But while he was busy patting himself on the back, as he likes to do, Emma just used another trick from her arsenal, transformed into her organic diamond formed, and delivered one very expensive punch. Utilizing her second mutation greatly enhances Emma's strength, stamina, and durability at the cost of her telepathic powers. But it's still a good trade deal in this case, and would give her more than enough punching power to take down Iron Man. Number 12. Mystique. I was just joking about Emma Frost divorcing Tony into defeat earlier, but there's a serious point in there about the fact that there's more than one way to win a battle. Sure, it's always exciting to see a large-scale battle where everyone's going all out and showing off all their crazy powers. But there are a lot more subtle scenes which can also determine someone's fate. We know Iron Man doesn't always think straight when faced with a pretty face. Just look at how close Natasha Romanoff was able to get to him during Iron Man 2. If she had been sent to take him out rather than get a closer look at him, she could have done so easily. In an all-out face-to-face battle, yeah, Iron Man would win against Mystique, barring something really crazy happening. But she's smart, talented, and has the ability to shapeshift. The MCU version of Tony didn't recognize that he was forming an army of disgruntled employees like Mysterio, so he definitely wouldn't notice someone like Mystique slipping past his defenses. Number 13. Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Now I'm talking about the Negasonic Teenage Warhead we met in the Deadpool movies, not the comic book version. I have a feeling Tony would easily make the same mistake Wade Wilson did upon meeting her and underestimate the extent of her powers and the awesomeness of her superhero name. She can generate massive explosions, mess with her opponent's energy fields, and use a force field to shield herself. Tony has a lot of fancy tech, but Ellie Famister is a skilled engineer as well. She was able to figure out how to fix Cable's time travel device, so I'm sure she could figure out how to take out Tony's suit. Number 14. X-Man. As you've probably noticed by now, there are quite a few members of the X-Men who could take down Iron Man, at least in my humble opinion. But you don't need a ton of X-Men to do this, no. All you need is one X-Man, and that X-Man is X-Man. Hey, I didn't come up with the name. Nathaniel Gray was literally created to be the most powerful mutant on Earth, and he doesn't fall short of that. He could destroy entire worlds with a power rivaling that of the Phoenix Force. Yikes. Unless Iron Man happens to battle him at the point in time when he lost access to his powers thanks to the Omega Machine, there's no way Iron Man, or the entire planet for that matter, could defeat X-Man. Number 15. Magic. Magic may be a mutant with pretty obvious powers, but that doesn't mean she wouldn't pulverize the tech-savvy Iron Man in a fight. She can use her stepping discs to teleport herself through both time and space, which is way more impressive than Tony's limited ability to time travel, which we saw during Endgame. As if teleportation wasn't a handy enough talent, she can also use magic so well that she's been considered for the highly prized position of Sorcerer Supreme. Watch out, Doctor Strange. Her mystical armor, psionic shields, and magic spells would reduce Iron Man to rubble in no time at all.